Welcome everyone to the Pick Six podcast, where we discuss the biggest stories in college football. I'm your host, Chris Cheng, and as a reminder, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It really helps us get these videos up and out there into the interwebs. A big welcome to our newest subscribers. Thank you for jumping on board the bandwagon and joining us on this journey. Also, be sure to send us your story ideas to thepicksixguys@gmail.com. We want to know, what do you guys want to see and hear us talk about, especially as we head into the offseason, guys? What are we going to talk about? But for right now, guys, we have got four games that we have got to look at that were incredible games. One, maybe not so much. One, a little messy. But the first one we're going to get off to, chef's kiss, unless you're a Buckeyes fan. Let's get into the Cotton Bowl. My God, guys, the Hurricanes asserting their dominance on the Ohio State Buckeyes, the reigning college football champions, guys. Oh my goodness, we can now let the ghosts of 2002 lay to rest. Maybe not fully. Still got one more dub in the desert that we need to get. But that victory over Ohio State, the proof in the pudding, that was Akeem Mesidor and Ruben Bain, Mark Fletcher running for his life, Marty Brown finishing the game off to put Ohio State out of their misery. Guys, let's look at it from the very beginning. The first few drives, a lot of self-inflicted wounds, some bad passes, a silly fumble by Mark Fletcher in the red zone kind of put us out of the game a little bit. And in terms of like the emotional aspect of it, you could see the resilience of this team still continuing to fight on. Defense playing lights out in that first quarter, but almost gave up a score with that Jeremiah Smith bomb in the second quarter. At that point, guys, I won't lie to you guys, I was very, very worried when I saw that. Again, Ohio State can be very explosive. You could go up 1-2 scores, but they can quickly get back in that game. I was really worried about that. But then we had that incredible game-changing Keionte Scott pick six that nullified that play to Jeremiah Smith, got us back into the game, not only back in the game, but actually gave us what I felt like was command of the game. Um, the, the level of confidence that I felt right after that play, I was like, this is pretty much it. I mean, we get into the second half and that was quickly diminished, but I was riding highs. I'm sure many of you who are Canes fans were. The game does and was completely in our hands at that time, but it felt like at any moment the momentum could flip, specifically around like that 11-minute mark, right just after the 12-minute mark in the second quarter. You could just see Ohio State, the penetration on the O-line was very apparent, but they were still somehow eking out plays. The question was, at my mind, was how long can this go for, right? Or when is it going to shift? And it looked like when pressure was being brought on Julian Sayin, it was indefensible. Like their O-line just had no adjustments, no response for our D-line. OSU's O-line was struggling the entire game, but specifically in those first few drives, struggling to keep back the pressure. And like I said, I was really just wondering, like, is this just maybe early game jitters? Is this maybe Sayin holding onto the ball a little bit too long and he's going to quickly make an adjustment and he's going to get his confidence and they're going to start moving the ball? I didn't know. But Miami offensively was moving the ball pretty consistently. Was it explosive? No, but we haven't had an explosive offense pretty much all season. But Ohio State, their defense played pretty well that first half. I mean, and then just before the halftime marker. I mean, again, if you think about it, you take the Keionte Scott pick six out of it, Miami only put up 7 points. I, however, would argue that that fumble again that Fletcher had probably would have given us, at least at a minimum, we were in field goal territory, 3 points. So we would have gone up either way by 2 scores, I think, going into the halftime in retrospect. But in the moment, it was pretty intense. And not only that, but like you could tell a lot of these guys were playing their hearts out, specifically on that D-line. You have Mesidor and Bain just lights out, full tilt. There was zero relaxing on the throttle. I mean, and to the point to where I thought Mesidor was looking a little gassed right before the half. I think maybe he was going a little too hard in the paint at first, and maybe should have paced himself, which is something I'm hoping we see when it comes to the next opponent in the semis, which we know is going to be Ole Miss. When they like to go up tempo, I kind of want to make sure Bane and Mesidor are kind of pacing themselves, because it will be a marathon when we play Ole Miss. I think Miami's final drive to get into the OSU 30 and have to punt and see OSU drive back down the field for a last-second field goal attempt really shifted. That there was these quick moments of momentum shifts. It felt like, at least for me as a fan, I was really watching this. I'm not going to lie to you guys. As a fan, I really wasn't looking at this very objectively. So my emotions were all over the place at this moment. But again, them missing it, their inconsistent kicking game, coming back and proving to bite them in the butt, really shifted the momentum back into Miami's hands going into that second half. However, Ohio State came out on fire and drove down the field very well to start off the third quarter. Again, shifting the momentum back into their hands. It felt like Miami's offense really needed to respond. They kind of did towards the fourth quarter, but you could tell that Ohio State wasn't fully out of this game. I mean, when you look at it, there's just some things you're not going to be able to do. And Julian Saints still was 22 for 35, threw for 287 yards. I mean, Jeremiah Smith still got his 7 receptions for 157 yards, averaging 22 yards a catch. I mean, this guy, he did what he was supposed to do. Now, the rest of the team, not so much. You had Cardinal Tate, who only had 3 receptions for 37 yards. Brandon Inniss, 4 receptions for 34 yards. Again, and then you look at their rushing game, they're running completely useless. I mean, when you look at sack adjusted, they got probably somewhere around 87 yards rushing. Not great, not horrific, but when you add the sacks to it, minus 42 yards, only getting 45 yards on the ground. That is not enough. Bo Jackson shut down 11 carries for 55 yards. It's not going to do it. And Miami has proven this week in and week out with their run defense. They're I think the number 2, or they're at least a top 5, top 3 run defense in all of college football. So I wasn't expecting a lot from Bo Jackson. Again, the biggest threats, why we really didn't mention him too much in the preview, which, by the way, I got right. Not to take too much of a victory lap, but a lot of you Ohio State viewers were thinking I was drinking some Delulu beverage, and I was not. Kind of called it. It kind of went almost exactly how I said I was going to go. Defensive line was dominating. I mean, and if you don't think the defensive line was dominating, I don't know what game you were watching, but just look at the final drive, right? It was a 10-play drive, went 70 yards. So essentially the entire field, you figure with the kickoff, took 5 minutes off the clock. And here's to me, the most poignant part of that. Of those 8 plays, of those 10 plays, 8 of those plays were runs. I mean, that is textbook dominance. And not only that, it wasn't even really when you look at that final drive, that was fresh legs. I mean, you had literally Mark Fletcher kind of started off, but then gets pulled out, and you have Marty Brown come in and really kind of pick it up with a 13-yard run, that 5-yard run. You start seeing Miami use all of their weapons. And that's one of the things I kind of want to get away from, is this narrative of that Miami is this boring offense, or Miami struggles to move the ball down the field. Let's all remember that Ohio State was holding teams on average to less than 60 points. I think it was 8 points is what we said, but the highest they were allowing were 16 points. Miami put up 24. Let's just take out the Keionte Scott pick 6. That's still 17. That's still 1 point more than the highest any other team has put up on them. So miss me with a Miami can't score. Miami's offense is struggling. We did what we were supposed to do. We did better than any other team against Ohio State. And then we did 3 times better than what they were averaging in points allowed for their defense. So the problem is our offense is not explosive. It's methodical, which I've discussed, and I've been very, very explicit and purposefully so about this, because Miami is, for all intents and purposes, an NFL team. They are built like an NFL team. I know some NFL teams now are kind of getting to the college model where they're putting up 40 something points a game. But when you talk about like Super Bowl winning teams, anywhere between 24 to 30 points averaging on offense and a stout and stellar defense are going to win Super Bowls, right? Same thing in college football. You've got big guys in the trenches. You're putting up between anywhere between 24 and 30 points a game, and your defense is shutting teams out or holding them to season lows. You're going to win. And I think that's what makes this team special. I have not seen a team beat us outright. All of our losses were self-inflicted. In my humble opinion, we have the best team out there. I know Indiana looks great and they just basically bludgeoned Alabama, but let's be real. Alabama was never going to win the national championship. It was the allure. It was the vestiges of the Nick Saban era. But Alabama was not a good team. They could not run the ball. Their defense has holes in it like Swiss cheese. So what Indiana did and what Indiana has, no offense, done all season has been what they're supposed to do. And when you look at Indiana, when they played Ohio State, who scored more, right? Yes, Ohio State ended up scoring 4 more points on us than they did Indiana. Are you going to sit there and really try and argue that Indiana has a better defense than Miami? It would be very, very hard. And if you were to argue it, the margin between the two would be very hair thin. It's not this like, oh, they are this incredible team that Miami has to watch out for. I think if anything, it's a coin flip if it ends up being Miami and Indiana in the national championship. So we really got to, like I said, get rid of this narrative that Carson Beck is inconsistent or Carson Beck, isn't dependable. I mean, the guy has the second best completion percentage. I think it's 73%. He's been averaging all season anywhere between 72 to 75%. Any offensive coordinator would in a heartbeat scoop up a quarterback who's throwing at 75%. But somehow, because his name is Carson Beck, he gets a bad rap. And here's what I also love about Carson Beck. Carson Beck doesn't need to throw 50-yard bombs, 40-yard bombs. What I love about Carson Beck is the guy is willing to put his body on the line. He loves this team. There's this third down third down completion that he makes, and he just squares up on Styles, the linebacker at OSU, and drives his bad elbow into him to run him over and roll over for the first down to extend that drive. Again, this is a guy who could have slid. This is a guy who could have used the opposite shoulder, not his injured shoulder. This man said, hey, I'm going to, whatever it takes, I'm going to do. And that's who I want as my quarterback. I don't care if you throw for, what did Carson Beck have, 138 yards? Let's look this up really quick. Carson Beck threw for 138 yards. He was 19 for 26. I think that is about 72% he threw for, averaging 5.3 yards and 1 touchdown. But here's the best part. 0 interceptions, 0 fumbles. He didn't. Now, Malachi Tony had a few fumbles. Luckily, he was able to grab them. I'm hoping this isn't an Xavier Restrepo kind of thing that we had late last season where Restrepo was coughing up the ball. The last 2 games of the season really cost us. Didn't get to see him in the Pop-Tarts Bowl, but you look at that Georgia Tech, you look at that Syracuse game from last year, that was definitely an issue. What I'm hoping for is these were blips. These were maybe big game jitters. We've gone through 2 of them now. We're ready for the next one. It's a business trip, right? So again, I can't state enough how incredible and how important this game was for the program, because for the better part of two decades, guys, I have always felt, and I'm sure many of you have felt, that the talent at Miami was never enough. When you looked at the Ohio States, the Alabamas, the Georgias, maybe you could throw in Oregon, but maybe even LSU that year they won in 2019. You see teams, Michigan even, you see teams with this, I don't want to use star rankings, but there was an echelon, there was a tier of talent that we clearly were not at. The bodies were bigger, the speed was faster, the twitchiness was there that we just did not have. This game thoroughly proved that Miami is back on the map. And I honestly, for those of you who are haters, who are criticizing Miami, even if you're in-house and saying this offense is a yada, 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 this is the most Miami team we have had since 2002. Our defense is dominant. We're scoring on defense. We're shutting down runs. We're knocking players out. Players are getting alligator arms when they crow across the middle, Carnell Tate, right? Nothing says Miami football than defense. That's why last year was such a heartbreaker, because it was so unlike Miami to play the way we did on the defensive side of the ball. The offense was great too, and there's vestiges of the 2000 teams, but when you look at the late 80s and 90s teams, they had great offenses, yes, certain levels of explosion, but to be real, it was always defense. And that's what this team is. And that's what I honestly believe is going to help carry Miami on through the playoffs and allow them to score. So and win these games realistically. So do we need explosion? No, but we've got a stellar defense. I think the U is not back yet, but we are absolutely back on the map. We are now with the Ohio States. We are now with the Alabamas, if not better, obviously. We are with the Georgias, if not better. The grass is not always greener to those fans. And I think there's one more thing I also wanted to highlight is this is an indictment on all the players who chose to sign at other places or chose to go to other places because they thought the grass was greener, because they didn't believe in Mario's vision. And now here, I will absolutely say, I absolutely questioned Mario Cristobal after the SMU loss. From here on out, I can't question him. What he's doing, what he has proven these last 3 weeks, check that. Last 5 or 6 weeks since that SMU loss has been nothing short of incredible. It has been nothing short of awe-inspiring. I am back on the Mario train. I apologize. I need to eat the crow. I was an idiot for not believing in him. This team just needed time. Again, we've talked about this in episodes past. We're not going to have these undefeated. I mean, Indiana could prove me wrong. They may go undefeated, win the Natty, win it all. Who knows? But in my opinion, there's probably not going to be too many undefeated national champions moving forward. So we stumbled our foot in the middle of the season. We had some injuries. We got over that. I'm excited for Ole Miss. I really think we'll beat it. Stay tuned for our preview of that game. It's going to be out. And again, this quarterfinal game, I really want to just. I've been sitting on it. I've been marinating in it. It's an incredible win, and we as Canes fans need to recognize that. I hope the players have moved on. I think that would be one of the weaknesses. I'm going to include that in our preview. I think getting too high on the Ohio State game could bite us in the butt. But as fans, let's really enjoy this. Let's not look too forward to Ole Miss. Let's really just think about what this team has done in the last 2 years, where we were second guessed last year. We were second guessed up until about 5 days ago. And now we are on the map. The University of Miami has talent, and we are dominating. This is something we have been waiting for more than 2 decades, and I am just so proud of this team.